up, everyone? Ian and Alex here. We're going to take you through some pretty advanced stuff. We're going to go through some half 90 progressions and things that we can do out of this position. First, let's just go ahead and go into the prerequisites and really what's actually going on here. So with this back hip, we have not only internal rotation of the hip, but we also have hip abduction. And you can even argue maybe some hip extension. This front hip is going to require, again, a lot of internal rotation and flexion. And then we're also going to have that straight leg flexion, meaning that the hamstring is on length, the quad needs to be strong and able to function within that range of motion as well. So one of the reasons that I really like to use this position, especially for some of my more mobile athletes, especially the ones that are working on front splits or even getting better at front splits, is this position actually has the same exact thing for the front hip in terms of your front split. And then for the back hip, so many people when they first start doing splits, they're not able to square it forward and really get their pelvis to actually rotate around and stay with the internal rotation of the femur. So that's why I really like to challenge internal rotation on the trail hip while the front hip is in that exact position. So this has really been a good way to really target that for me and a lot of my people. So now, the first thing that we want to do is kind of go through the idea of doing P.A.I.Ls and R.A.I.Ls for this trail hip. So as a progression, what we can have Alex do is actually turn towards me. So when she turns towards me, what happens is her pelvis or her butt actually drops to the ground. We want to think her Nike check right here is actually can represent her femur or her hip bone, and that's going to go towards the ground while this goes away. The difference between those being here and here, especially within sensation, is a very big deal. Do you feel the stretch there when that happens? Good. So being able to actually drop your butt to the ground and not stay hiked up like this, think about when most people struggled against the 90-90, that's not what we want. So as she's here, the sensation of the stretch should be felt all through here and maybe into the groin for most people. When we're straight up like she's able to be, we should feel more of the groin. And when we get closer to the ground here, we should feel more of that capsular stretch that goes through there. That's really deep. The back ankle does need to be dorsiflexed. It really does change the way that the tissue actually runs through the body on that lower half. So it is a good way to really get after the capsule even more. The other foot could be anywhere you want, but we definitely don't want it to start to drag over. When we're working on a regression for this, we could even work on just pull that foot in a little bit. Good. So like some people might need to even just have that slight little bit of doing that might open up an opportunity to train the back hip more. So it's something that's just a little detail that you can mess around with. Now, when we do our P.A.I.L's contraction, we want to go ahead and take a nice big deep breath in. Exhale everything out, get nice and tight in the abs. And now we're gonna think about creating tension deep in her hip right here. So abs and deep in the hip are gonna push down. If I'm the coach, I can come over to here and say, do not let me pick you up. So that she starts to really tension through the ground. The other cue that I really like is the idea of almost taking this and trying to drag it through the ground, as if she's trying to drag her knee through the ground. And the way that that's doing that is by using the tension in the actual hip. So there's our P.A.I.Ls. I'm gonna kind of just do a quick little one like that. Now, when you relax out of your P.A.I.Ls, we'll immediately go into our R.A.I.Ls, which is going to be the idea of trying to lift this foot, even trying to maybe even lift the knee, and especially trying to keep this from coming forward. You should start to see this muscle, the TFL, start to really go crazy and kind of boom, boom, boom. And what that's gonna want to also do is pull us deeper into that capsular stretch. When you feel the stretch increasing or you kind of cramp out, that's kind of where we know we're doing the right stuff. And then she would relax and sink in and just stay forward. With most people, we're gonna want to lean back and open up the angle right here, but we don't want to do that. We want to stay over it as best as possible. Just to show you the next step, we can really kind of apply all these things from our 90-90 blog, but just the next step, she would actually reach and try to get a little bit closer to here. Chances of most people getting here, slim to none, but for that one person out there, this is how you would progress it by really getting all the way over here. And again, we shouldn't see the right foot move because she went over to here. And if you did need to move it in because you wanted to focus more on the back hip, that is an option. In the ideal world, you do 2 minutes of a passive stretch, just breathing and sinking in, finding your lines of tension. Then we'd go into our P.A.I.Ls, our R.A.I.Ls, couple of breaths. That would complete one round, and we want to progressively overload that by maybe adding another round as we go. So that's how we're going to implement P.A.I.Ls and R.A.I.Ls from the half 90 position, and then we'd want to follow it up with some other strength training work, which we'll get into.